When I look at a car and a project that I'm doing, I sort of look at it pretty damn objectively. I like to use Ferrari as an example because it's such an emotionally charged car for many people. When I look at it professionally, it's just a car. It works like every other car, and it's made up of the exact same materials that every other car is made of. If you get down to the tacks of it, there's really very little difference between it and, say, a Toyota. It is material, and we are coming in and modifying the material that's there.
AI Design is a shop in Westchester County, not that far from New York City, that does some of the most sophisticated, intricate car customization projects that I think I've ever seen.
Something to keep in mind as what separates us from the rest is that it's not always necessarily on the surface. Devil's in the details, right? But if you were to dive into our work, remove panels, get down to the nitty-gritty, even the little simplest things as far as the wires that we wind up using, behind the scenes, behind the panels, behind the carpet, it's all to the same level.
Not just the form and the function, it's always with that mindset of the experience when you're interacting with what we do.
I think the core fundamentals remain is we don't build something just to build it. We build something because it's purpose-built. It's not just icing on a cake. It's, we built the whole cake. Everything is starting with a foundation and working its way up from there.
All I need to worry about is my own standard, and the standard that I want everyone at my shop to follow. It's like everybody's on a palette and I'm painting a painting, And I create custom cars for people on a very high level. Before I started AI Design, I took a job in the South Bronx, like custom cars, custom everything. Anything custom for a car, painting, body kits, stereos, wheels, you name it. And I'm seeing and meeting all these like super street people. Drug dealer, gun dealer. I can't even remember if there was a legit client that walked into this place. I remember my boss coming to me saying, this person here wants a hidden compartment put in this car. Out of that came this tremendous creativity. All of a sudden I get this idea. If I could make this radio flip down and access a compartment behind it, that would really knock everybody's socks off, right? After I had done it, and when the first few people saw it, right then and there, we went into the safe business at this place. News traveled like lightning, putting these safes in cars and everybody's happy. So I get to work on time and I walk in to an incredible flurry of activity. New York City Police, DEA, ATF. This is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this. Like, I was excited. So I had no more job. My two partners-to-be stayed in touch with someone that we had met. And so basically, with this place now gone, there's a need. We found a really terrible place in Yonkers, but we loved it. And the next thing you know, we were sort of open for business. I mean, we already had work. We go into the New York Auto Show in 1992. All the cars in the booth were drug dealers' cars. Things are getting a little out of control with the clients. We had one particular guy that would laugh and like flip and be wickedly sinister. So we get this idea in our heads that we're gonna sort of wean him off of us. I don't think we had that plan in action for more than 2 days. And the door swings open with a slam and 6 people rush in saying things like, there's no fucking way you're getting rid of me. You're gonna do my shit. And we're like stunned. There's no way that we can be doing work like this for these types of people ever again. But that was sort of the beginning of like a new phase, like we had to sort of do things differently now. We moved out of Yonkers and signed a lease in a place in Eastchester, New York. I went solo in this building, so I bought my partners out. No more trying to attract that same type of client. So I had to lean into the legit clients that I had. But then something happened. There was this trend that started out in California, taking old body style Chevy Suburbans and making executive versions of those, customizing them across the board. A monochromatic body, more power, richer interiors. This is like the precursor to an SUV. That term hadn't been coined yet. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. I could do that, that's easy. I dove right in. I mean, I went full into this, and I used this little sort of micro trend that was just percolating to jump off from. I realized that, if I'm going to do this, I really need a lot more space. I was looking for an industrial space, and I found a building. I think it was September of 1998, and I took possession of the building that month. It's a totally new model for customizing cars, to have an industrial large space, to not be retail in any way, shape, or form. And I knew that the word of mouth would travel, if for no other reason than the California microtrend that had started had really caught on. It's funny what happens when you put your intention on something, things actually do fall in line. In comes AI design. There was so much in front of us that we could do.
The work Matt was doing when he opened AI design 30 years ago is completely different in a lot of ways than the work we do today. Certainly stylistically, I mean, he's gone through all these different phases of cars and customizing cars.
I remember the first time I was asked, hey, do you think you could aim a camera at my baby sitting in the back seat of my SUV? Sure, why not? AI Design is the first company to put a TV screen in the back of the headrest in 1992. There isn't anyone else. I mean, we could take an idea and produce it in just a very short period of time.
Where we are in 2022 is we've got a staff that's incredibly talented. Everybody's a specialist in their own right in what they really like to do.
For this scenario here, the client requested that we have a speedo display. We're going to actually integrate it into the cluster itself so that when this gets reassembled, this display will sit in that section right there, given a full digital readout of the speed and trimmed nicely with a pod.
This is a modification to a Tesla Model Y for a client of ours. These are custom grip handles that we're adding to the A-pillars and the B-pillars of the client's elderly parent to more easily get in and out of the car. It's great to work on something where you know that the purpose and the function of it is practical and for such a good reason.
So basically what we're doing is we're going to be building some trim that's going to cap this top side of the dashboard, and we're trying to get the grain to where the grain runs left to right evenly across the entire piece so we can mimic the steering wheel.
A really good example of the kind of work we do is we have the first AMG hammer here, like the first one that they made. And the customer wanted to keep it really period correct. So didn't want to cut any holes in anything, but he wanted to take it a step further and he wanted to make the car phone work. So we adapted it to work with Bluetooth. So you can now make phone calls as a speakerphone and as a phone that you pick up.
I think that's the thing about AI is like you could bring any crazy cockamamie dream to Matt and AI and they will find a way to do it and put it in your car.
Obviously the materials that we're adding to it, the paint colors that we choose, matching of course, but it's a matter of picking up the styles and cues of the car as well. The contours that are used on the door panels or on the dashboard itself, the angles that are being used, the shapes, that's the kind of level of detail that we bring things to here in the shop so that it puts us above and beyond anyone else that's out there.
If there's one thing that Matt is not, he's not a car guy. And I mean that in a really good way. So he's not looking at car news, he's not looking at what everybody else is doing. He's an artist first. He takes a completely different approach, I think, than anybody else is taking to automobiles.
It's inspiring to want to put out your best day in, day out. And there's nothing like handing the keys over to a client when you're done and seeing how happy they are with the job that you've put out.
I put my heart and soul into the work every day. People ask me, what's your favorite project? And I always say that my favorite project is the one I'm working on right now. Because it is. After I finish something, I move on to the next one. And once I'm in the next one, this is what I'm focused on. Every little detail about them I'm focused on. And I don't see that ever changing. I don't care too deeply about what I have done. I care most deeply about what I am doing right now, because that defines the future. That defines the company, and that's the mindset I want all my staff to share with me.